Hey, how's it going? Dave here from Evolve Lab, and today I'm going to be covering all the new features that were released in Glyph 2.1 and 2.2. We now have linked file support for a number of tasks, as well as some additional settings when creating elevations. There's now a search bar for selecting a parent view, which makes that a little bit easier. And Dimensions now supports structural framing and received an update to how it handles grids. I think you'll find the result a lot cleaner. I'll walk through specific examples of each of these, but let's just get started. All right, so I'm inside of Revit now, and I have a linked model. First task that I'll get into is this create views by room. So if I expand to that, we have this new button here that's labeled Revit models. And you do need to specify for Glyph to look in these linked elements. Here I have it enabled, and I'll leave them both connected for now. The regular local rooms are going to be listed here without any icon, so I'll just select one of these, and if I go to the end of the list, you'll see here these linked files have a little icon. So I'll just grab a room. And there's a couple new features here within floor plan and elevation. So here on floor plan, if we're making callouts, we have to define a parent view, and we've added a search here. So if I put in level 1, you can see here that it filters down to anything with level 1. And then in elevations, we now have a new elevation height condition that we can specify of ceiling, floor, well, top of ceiling and floor. But everything works with these linked elements. We can pull in parameters and pull something through if we wanted to, like pull the name, and let's just go ahead and hit play. So right here you can see those elevations that were in the link and elevations that were local. And then here we have the two floor plans. So if I start opening some of these, works just as you would expect. Creating sheets is another task that's supported by linked models, and we have a few options. We have scope box, level, and room. So if I click into scope box, I just need to, again, kind of enable the link to get it to be visible. I'll do that for both the scope box and levels. But I can go ahead and pull the third floor through and this link scope box. Then I have the ability to add it to the naming scheme. So here I have the level name and the scope box name. It's a pretty simple entity type scope boxes, so not a whole lot of options, not as many as say rooms, but maybe something makes sense for your project. And I'll go ahead and hit play. You'll see right here, we got scope box, link, third floor, which is exactly what we asked for. So really working the way you would expect. And let's go ahead and get into level. So this one might have a few more options. So again, on this first tab, we got to make sure we specify a link if we want maybe the parapet to be the parapet from the roof to be what we're targeting. And then we have a number of parameter options coming from that level. So there's a lot more customizability with this, but we'll go ahead and hit play, and right there, I got the elevation, the name, the level, everything all built in there. And if I go over to creating sheets by room, we get a lot of options here. Again, got to enable that linked object or linked Revit document. Otherwise, you don't see it. And let's just go ahead and make one for room 245. And here we'll have a ton of parameter options within rooms, so a lot of customizability. But right now I got name, number, and the area, and I'll just go ahead and hit play. And there we go, just the way you would expect. We can also dimension some linked elements. There are a handful of categories not supported, so I don't want to lead you astray. Doors, windows, levels, railings, and exterior walls do not currently function. So look for that in a future update. But for now, I'll go ahead and again, gonna go in here and specify my linked model. and I'll specify the plan that I'm looking at. Then here I have interior wall, and I'll just go ahead and hit play. And it works as you would expect. So you're a little limited on what categories are supported, but it's going to be getting better every release. Just keep an eye out. And if you have any specific category needs that aren't covered, be sure to be vocal about it on the forums. Capturing customer feedback is how we kind of prioritize what we're working on. So be sure to ask for the things you're looking for. All right, now that I have a structure model open, let's talk about the enhancement to grids. Here I have a task configured for grids, and I'll just go ahead and hit play. So you can see that the dimensions were added only to grids that have a bubble configured, and it was placed on the side that the bubble is enabled. If I undo back, it's a nice feature because we can just disable some of these, or maybe enable this one. And like we want to show this relationship in this, framed view, but maybe these two are just kind of extending in and they're only for context. If I hit play again, I'll get the dimensions again, only where the bubbles are configured. So it's a lot more of a finished product and more of a predictable result. So now let's talk about structural framing. Here I have a view configured, and let's just make a new task. I think often people are kind of modifying the ones that are out of the box, but it's really simple to make new ones. So all I had to do is press that plus in the top corner, and now I can configure a new task. So now I have that structural framing task, and on the first tab, I'm just going to make sure it's looking at the right view, and let's do structural framing. You have a couple options with structural framing, just changing the offset to 10 feet, but I'll just hit play on all elements, and you'll see that with all elements, it's taking what I like to call a zone, I guess. So it's taking the length of that structural framing member, and then it's looking for other framing objects that are parallel to it. And then the ones that it finds in line, it's going to add a dimension to. And then it kind of does that for each zone, so to speak. Where if I undo back and I change this to aligned elements only, and I hit play, you'll see that it doesn't add a dimension to these members because they're in line with this first string. So it's trying to accomplish the dimensioning task with the least strings of dimensions possible. Now let me open some structural foundations. I won't pretend to be an expert here, but it is now a supported category. And if I just change this to be my active view and set it to structural foundations, just give this a little bigger of an offset, and I'll hit play. And you'll see that Glyph has no issue picking it up and adding dimensions. All right, and the last one that I want to talk about is columns. Structural columns has a number of options, and I'll try not to get too long-winded, but I want you to hopefully walk away with an understanding of what Glyph is trying to do. So let's just go ahead and configure this for structural columns. And you have a couple different options. I think maybe direction will be the easiest one to explain. And I'm going to start really simple, and even I'm going to put a 0 offset because I think it'll be a good example to talk through. So I'll leave the tolerance at 1 foot, and I'll just hit play. And you'll see here that it only grabbed columns that were in line with a tolerance of 1 foot. So if I undo back and I change it to 2 feet, you'll see that a lot more are able to be grabbed in line. So what that tolerance is how off axis is it going to be and still be captured by this, left, right, center reference plane. So if I kind of gradually increase that number, I'll get eventually all of the columns represented. So I'm still seeing a little bit of miss there. So if I increase it to 4 feet, then now I'm getting one string through each of these rows. So this might be a setting that you need to play with to, give it enough of a tolerance off axis if your, structural columns aren't in a perfect line. And then to talk about proximity in a similar way is, and maybe I'll do it center, front, back for this. So I'll just go ahead and put no tolerance on it, and you'll see it really couldn't do anything because there's nothing within 1 foot of each other. So if I change this to 10 feet and I run it, still nothing. But if I put it to 15 feet, I think I should get a few. So these ones, this is 11'6" apart. That's 14 feet apart. But I think if I do 20, I'll start capturing a lot more. And again, if I go 30 feet, that's when all of them are able to be put in one string. So it's going to group based on proximity, and this probably feels a little more powerful when you're including more than one reference and put it down to something that makes sense. So let me undo back and play. And you'll see that because I'm giving it this kind of 20-foot tolerance buffer, it ends up finding groupings that are together that it can then dimension. So hopefully that gives you a little clarity around what those two settings do. And proximity and dimension just gives you both of those options kind of all in one. I hope this recap was helpful. A lot of the features that I covered here today came straight from customer requests. We love hearing from you, so if you have an idea for a feature, please let us know. The best place to share your thoughts is the forums. That way we can start a discussion. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you stay up to date with everything here at Evolve Lab. That's it for today. Have a wonderful day.